Oh, OBS muting me off the start. Jesus, this program. Hello, welcome to another episode of the Great Work Launchpad. My name is Chris Nelson. My site is evolveconsciousness.org. Today we're continuing to talk about the value of the individual and a poisoned worldview, and how having a sense of devaluing, or I guess maybe it's the opposite. Having a poisoned worldview will devalue the value of yourself and the value of others. So you'll have a poisoned worldview, and you'll have a poisoned self-view, and a poisoned view of others. So the Great Work Launchpad is here to help people get started into the great work, hence the rocket launching up. Got to launch. So trying to get people to launch up into that great work. And yeah, so anyone's welcome to come on and talk about the topic, or if you want some help, you can contact me and I can suggest you a topic you can write about or come present on it for, you want to do 5 minutes or write an article. Yeah. So welcome, Brandon. Glad to see you made it. Finished your work.
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
All right. All right.
A little tired, but
You're
it's
tired?
all good. Yeah.
Long day?
Nah, just a lot of sweating. It's like
Yeah.
90. It's like
Hot.
98 degrees. Yeah, so you just sweat like being 2 hours on the field. So
Yeah, dehydrated. And,
yeah, hell, it drains you.
Yeah, for sure. That heat. The killer. Yeah, last week, what were we talking about? So we ended on a section. Went over what people want. You ask people, do you want peace? Do you want prosperity? Do you want good things? Or do you want chaos? Do you want to suffer? So no one's going to say the latter. They all want the former. But then when it comes down to what they're going to do about it, are you going to do what needs to be done to end the suffering, end the chaos? Do you like the state of the world? No. Do you want to get involved? Well, not really. So people, I'm asking, do you think the state of the world is fine? There's no suffering, everything's fine, everything's good, there's no chaos. Well, obviously they won't say yes. But then do you want to end it? Would you like that to end? They'd say yes. But to get involved in ending it, well, no. It's like, whoa, back away. I'm not too interested in that. And so that ties into human nature. I guess my 2 points don't tie in very well, but I'll just keep going. Just a little summary. Human nature, people can view humans as inherently evil, or that there needs to be suffering. But human nature isn't programmed a certain way other than it being programmable. And when we grow up, and our parents and everyone around us, and the school and the news or the videos, the cartoons, or anything you watch, all that's going to influence you. And it's going to program you into a way of living, because all that is input, and whether you process it or not, there's a lot of imitation going on, and you'll end up adopting the things that come into you as influences, and then you put them back out. And so even after that conditioning and programming, we can still change ourselves. So that poison worldview we can get conditioned into, we end up repeating, and we condition other people, and the society gets conditioned, continues the condition that they conditioned people with, and then that conditions new people. It can still change. And part of that, instead of that garbage coming in that influences and shapes people, we need to get that quality going into people. We need to get that quality information so that can shape them into different people. And that's what doing the great work It's part of the goal of doing the right work is getting people to change themselves, because only by individuals changing themselves will the collective that is composed of individuals change as a reflection of. So we need to learn how to think, to discern truth from falsity, because that's how we're fooled into going along these less optimal, more detrimental pathways for living in our own societies or in the globe, on the planet as a whole. We don't know, we're being fooled because we don't know how to determine what's true or false, and we accept falsity and we reject truth. So we're living on the checkerboard floor, and I think that's where we ended it last time, talking about the checkerboard floor and
Yep.
ignorance of objective morality, where people don't know if they're walking on the good square symbolized by the white square or the evil square symbolized by the black square. So you could be doing either. You're walking and you're not off the board, so you're walking on that board, which is a mix of both, because you don't have the objective knowledge to rise above and no longer walk on both, to only choose one path. So it's not hopping only onto the white squares, it's getting off of it, like the first degree tracing board where you have the ladder. Well, you get off the board by getting on the ladder. And so we have our formative years, part of that conditioning, age 1 to 6, 1 to 7, where that's like formatting our drives in a computer analogy. The hard drive, when you install, say, Windows, you gotta create a new partition and you format the drive. And then the drive is clean, empty, it's got nothing in it. You're ready to jam in an operating system and then plug in some software. You don't plug in the software, you install it, but anyways. And that cultural conditioning, well, that's the operating system that we operate within. We come into the world, we operate within reality, but we're not just living out in the jungle with no one else around us. There's other people, there's influences, and that culture and society is what influences us, and that's the operating system, the system of control that we operate within. And that's what conditions us. And then we have the software. Well, those are all the beliefs that we develop from all that conditioning and then other stuff that we read later on. So it's not just from culture, it can be from countercultural things that can have negative influences. We can have beliefs that aren't part of the mainstream, but they can still influence us and lead us in cul-de-sacs or in the wrong direction. Obviously, either way, you're not going to the optimal path that we should be going. So if all these are poor or bad, like the conditioning and the software of our beliefs, the conditioning of the system of society that we're in, then the outcome of what they produce is also going to be poor or bad. And low consciousness parenting, I mentioned it last week. And low consciousness society. Well, if society that's ignorant of an immoral way, of the immoral way of life that they're actually living, and believes in the legitimacy to rule, the legitimacy of authority to rule, and the ignorance of objective morality, well, that's just a recipe for continuing ignorance of objective morality, continuing to believe that authority has legitimacy, and being ignorant of that immoral way of life that we continue to perpetuate. I head it off to you before we go to the next point. What you got to say?
I was kind of laughing because maybe that's people's problem is they're still trying to operate on hard drives. They haven't updated their, devices that haven't evolved or uplifted their devices to solid state drives, like NVMe drives. So I was just kind of laughing at that because if you're still operating on hard drives in 2025, man, you're kind of running on like dinosaur technology. That there's still a means for hard drive for large storage, but yeah, hell again, you say things so wonderfully, and just there is a reoccurring theme here, trying to encourage individuals that yes, we are capable of change. Yes, there are tons of conditioning that has been put in place. There are tons and tons of programming. It just makes it more harder for the individual to see through that programming. And as you brought up earlier, is the most important thing is being able to see truth from falsity. In the world that we live in now, they are trying to put out so much falsity into the world that the individual can't see the difference, between the two. So then they buy into health of falsity and then build these worldviews and build these false axioms, and then you have to go down, how that road that keeps you on that checkerboard floor, which keeps you in that slave mentality. And that's why we need more individuals to rise hell above that checkerboard floor, understand, the definitive knowledge of what is right and wrong, understand how natural law, and start to go within themselves so they can pull themselves out and start to use their voice, because right now the truth is under hell attack more than ever. And we need more warriors. We need more individuals who are willing to align hell with the truth and speak the truth and do what is morally right. There is no better time than now in this year.
Yeah, it's always, there's no better time than now. If not now, when? If you don't do it now, we'll probably just keep putting it off, and
Yep.
well, you won't start because you'll just be like, no, I'm not ready now.
Yep.
Well, then, are you even aware of what the requirements are for you to be ready? Do you have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Oh, I'll be ready when I have these things. And if you do have that list, well, then, are you working on that list? And most people don't even do that. They're just like, oh, I'm not ready. Well, why aren't you ready? What are the reasons? Note
Right.
those reasons, list those reasons, work on those reasons. But they're not doing any of that. It's just, no,
Problem
I'm
solving
not ready.
skills. Yep.
Yeah,
They'll make excuses. They'll start
yeah,
to, procrastinate. They'll find any reason. Oh, I don't have enough time. But again, if you understand how to problem solve, then you can start to figure out why is it you are not getting involved, what's holding you back. Then you can start to properly diagnose the reasons to what is you are not doing what you're supposed to do. And it can be done. It can be done.
yeah. Yeah, there's many things. That's what we'll be getting into. After this, we'll go into the fears and excuses people have of why they think they're not good enough, or why they can't get started.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so getting back to like formative years and how we're conditioned, and part of that conditioning is we're convinced. I think I mentioned this last week too. This part, convinced that some animals have more rights than others. As Animal Farm talked about, where all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others, and that would be the super class that has rights to do things that others don't have a right to do, and that class is authority. Whatever level of authority you want to go to, well, they can do things that other people can't do because they've got these magic powers to have the right to do things that people can't, just because people say, hey, you can do it, because there's this system of voting, and we get money taken from us to pay for jobs, and those jobs, well, they can do things, but we can't do those things. Only the people who go for those jobs to get paid for those jobs can do those things that the rest of us can't do. And it's very, very twisted. And by being convinced of that, then other people have more rights and you have less rights. So they have more value because they can do more, and you're being denied things that you have a right to do, or they're being allowed to do things that they don't have a right to do, and you can't do them, but they're doing them even though they're wrong, or preventing you from doing things you do have a right to do. So all that is devaluing you, devaluing yourself relative to others who are able to engage in rights that they're allowed to, while you're denied, or are engaging in things they don't have a right to, but they're being allowed by this complicity of the aggregate, the collective, the society that just supports this way of life and this nonsense. So people have this inability to think because of these poisoned worldviews of their own value and their own rights, or the value of others and the rights they have. So you got a population that accepts being enslaved because they accept that, oh, well, these other people have more rights than me. Totally fine. Oh, these other people get to tell me that I'm not allowed to do things I have a right to do. Totally fine. So people accept being enslaved because that's what being enslaved is the and enslavement is a persistent condition where your rights are being violated. So if you're being denied your rights, or if other people are doing immoral things and you're being affected, then your rights are being violated. And that's in perpetuity. It persists. Then you have a persistent condition of enslavement. So that mind manipulation, we're being manipulated to accept these things through that conditioning of authority and the legitimacy of authority. And this is mind control. That they get you to do things that you wouldn't otherwise do if you weren't controlled, if you weren't coerced, if you weren't under duress. And that's why it's not voluntary. Voluntary is when freedom is not being violated and your rights are being respected. Then things are voluntary. So just because they engage in threats of greater violence if we don't let them steal from us, we are making the choice to not be violated, but it's not voluntary because it's not based in freedom. That's not a voluntary interaction. Yes, we go along with it because we don't want those more severe consequences. So we allow the mugger to steal from us because we don't want them to shoot us, is essentially what's going on here. But if we were given the choice in freedom and be like, here's the choice, do you want to be stolen from, do you want to have your rights violated, and you say no, and then they didn't do it, well then that would be a voluntary interaction. Someone's offering to violate you and you say no, well then and then they respect you saying no, then okay, I'm not going to violate you. Then it would be a voluntary interaction. And if you said yes, then it wouldn't be a violation of your rights because you would accept them coming to do this to you. So that volition, that voluntary aspect would be given, that consent would be given. So it's never voluntary just because we agree to lesser violations in order to avoid more severe violations. Just like a mugger pointing a gun at you and says, give me your wallet, give me your watch, give me your ring. Well, your life is more valuable than that, so you give it to them and you get to live, hopefully, as opposed to getting shot and then they take it anyways. You're still within your rights to defend yourself. You got to make choices. And none of that is voluntary because you're automatically having your rights violated. It's not a question of, will you give it to me and then I'll leave you alone if you say no. That's not what's happening.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, go
because, I've heard this argument. We signed up for this because you signed a piece of paper, but hell again, there was deceit, lies, and coercion, held behind that. So any forms of signature or contracts are null and void. And that's what people seem to forget is there was deceit, lies, and coercion back, from behind that. So you can't sign anything as a child because, you were lied to and held deceit and all that stuff, held coercion. And like Chris said, if it's not voluntary, like if you could voluntarily leave, then it'll be different. But you can't because there's always coercion, violence, and theft, and duress and threats that are back behind, how this, system that's conditioned, how it's all. So I want to make that clear because people always try to say, well, you signed up for it by signing up a piece of paper. Hell again, go back to the 7 inherent wrongs that are transgressions against natural law.
Yeah. And that brings us to, government. We're talking about government here. We're talking about authority. Government, synonymous with government. And we're talking about being manipulated, mind manipulation, mind control, and that's what government means. govern from gubern, and that comes from Greek, I'm pretty sure, which is kuber. And there's this thing in computers dealing with DevOps is Kubernetes, and yeah, so that's where I figured that out because of Kubernetes. But Kuber, Kyber, to gubern, to govern. And that's all about, because Kubernetes is like the steering, the helmsman. Then you have this aspect of Helm within Kubernetes to like deploy your apps and all that. Anyways, technical jargon, but it's interesting that they use Helm because that's what gubern is you're steering all these words. So that the synonyms are to steer, to direct, to drive, to control, and that's what govern is. And mens mente, well, that's the mind. So it's controlling the mind, and that's what government does. They control your body by controlling your mind, by putting you into fear, that restriction of consciousness state where you're going to be, like we just talked about, afraid of the consequences of not going along with their demands, of allowing yourself to be violated, because that is a lesser violation than the greater violation that they are threatening you with. So anyone can just, don't pay your taxes, do what they tell you you're prohibited from doing, and don't get licenses, and see how long, if you didn't pay that money, if you didn't give them the money, let them take it, how long is it going to be before they up that violence from just standard theft of your money, the fruits of your labor, which is a claim on the body that produced it, so it's still enslavement, but they're going to up it. They're going to, we're going to come and forcibly arrest you. So that's assault. So that's an upgrade in violence from just standard theft of money or of any physical property. And then they'll put you in a cage. And if you dare resist in your rights, then they're going to beat you even more. And if you resist to the point of even more resistance, then they could murder you, because then you're viewed as the violent one, and you're physically defending yourself. And then they're going to view themselves, I'm being attacked because now I'm being violated. When I'm the aggressor, I'm the violator. But no, now I'm being violated, which isn't true. And then they're going to murder you, and they're going to call it justified. So that's the insanity of the enslavement that we live in.
Yeah, they will escalate quickly. And they don't care who you are. They will escalate quickly.
Yeah, so that's the control of the government. That's the mind control they got us in. And the only way to beat it, well, the two ways. The main way, the important way, is to do it in the mind, unslave the minds of the majority. And if necessary, well, those enslaved minds can unite physically in order to put down and change that modality of life when there's enough people to be able to carry that out. So our enslaved minds to become enslaved in the body. That's what the government does. And that's the garbage, poisoned worldview and the self-view that we get conditioned with. So we are fooled. People are fooled. And that makes us fools. Because we are fooled, we become fools. And that's the foolish world that we live in. It's all a big joke. And we are the joke. We're the clowns. We got clown shoes. We got clowned. And we're kept in line by fear of what authority will do to us, which is not in line with objective morality, chosen for the optimal outcome for ourselves, aligned with the laws of nature, and everyone together aligned with the laws of nature. We're divided from natural law, from truth, from our higher nature and our higher being, our higher potential. We're supposed to be individuals, in divide dual, in as not divided, not dual, not divide, not dual, in divide dual. So we're supposed to be individuals, and that's in sovereignty and respecting the sovereignty of others. But we're not. We got poison worldview. we're mind controlled, mind manipulated into that poison worldview, and to accept the fear of authority and not unite. We're not united, and united we stand, divided we fall is true in that circumstance. That's about the collective versus the individual. And there's no rights in the former. A lot of people have this mindset that in the individual, the former, in the latter, people view there's no actual rights of the individual. It's just based on whatever the collective says. So we have this whole we the people, the deception and the illusion of power to even create the authority and the obedience that comes from it. And this is what so many people, this other poison worldview, this mind control, this infectious, poison thought form that people so strongly believe in. And that's what keeps it going, because then they think, well, we're the ones that create the, well, that is true. You are the ones who create it, and you're the ones creating your own enslavement. You're the ones creating your own obedience to it. It's so insane. And that's this deception of this unity of people collective for perpetuating immorality. Yeah, you're collected and you're united towards immorality, towards your own enslavement. It's insane. So this the collective versus the individual, what actually doesn't have rights is the former. The collective has no rights. It's a collective.
Yep.
Only individuals have rights. And this is where we get into the greater good, utilitarianism bullshit. That the true greater good, is for society. You have to think of the bigger picture. You have to sacrifice yourself for the group, for the collective, for we the people, for the government, etc. But the true greater good is based in individual rights first. That's the only way you can actually get to the true greater good, because the good is based in morality. And if you're violating individual rights, it's impossible to have that greater good. People have really messed up ways of looking at the greater good, of like taking care of the homeless, or universal health care, or universal basic income, or whatever nonsense they want to think of. But that's not what the greater good is. The greater good is what's good, and what's good is what's right and true and moral. And if you don't have that at a foundational level of the individual, then what composes the aggregate, that collective, is based on those individuals. So your collective cannot be a greater good if you're sacrificing the individual in some vain, deluded attempt, crazy nonsense attempt to create some greater good, which will never be greater good, because you're violating the individuals which make up that collective in the first place.
Hey, that Star Trek saying, what is it? The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Such a dangerous thing.
That can be dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you have a lot of people saying the power lies in we the people. Well, again, you're still talking about a collective. The power lies in the individual. So the mind control goes deep. I mean, really deep. And yeah, like I get like what they're trying to say, but again, words mean things. Words are so important. We have to use the correct words. We have to. We really do have to, and learn and understand the words that we use. That way, when we're speaking things into existence, we can back things up, then align to them. Therefore, we keep our word and do things that are actually true. And when we do things that are actually true, then we can come to understand how what is good, then understand what Chris is talking about, the greater good, which is understanding true objective morality. Then therefore, the individual can start to harness the power. Then the individual can unify with the truth and with what's good. They start to unify with others who will also have unified with the truth and that which is good. Then those individuals can come to work together to truly fix problems. That's the way it's supposed to be done, from an individual, basis, coming to unify with themselves. But again, the reason why shit doesn't change, shit doesn't get done, is because the individual is not an individual, because they're divided. And that's why so many people, he'll recognize the problem. So many people see that there's a big problem, but they're not doing anything about it because they're not unified. And we are in such a disunity that we are still fighting with ourselves over the dumbest, stupidest crap. And that's the reason why nothing ever changes.
Yeah. It's we the people again. You mentioned we the people. Yeah. it is all we the people because of that. I've been referring to it as the principle of quantity, or I guess you could look at it as the law of one, where we're all one. So yeah, whatever we the people decide is what we're gonna get. So yeah, right now we the people, the power is truly in the individual, but as a collective, we have the power to, wherever the collective goes is where everyone's
Yep.
going, and there's power in that, and it's based
Yeah.
on each individual choosing where they want to go, and that right now the power of the collective is to remain ignorant and choose the path of immorality, leading us to greater chains, um, limiting our potential, keeping us restricted from actualizing that potential in greater possibilities for ourselves and humanity as a whole. Like, think of again, I think we talked about it in the first one when I read quotes from The End of All Evil. Of all the things we can create in the world, of all the potential we have, this is the world. It's better that might some ways it's better than it was. In periods in the past, we've gone up, but we still have so many problems, so many things that we're just not getting over ourselves. We're still stuck in ego and the I, and it's not that the ego or I is bad, but this negative aspect of the satanic aspect of egotism, where it's all about you, what you want, the fake my freedom, my survival. So whatever is benefiting you, to hell with anyone else.
My group, my kids. Yeah. Yep. All me, me, me.
Yeah,
And such a that mindset is such a reactive state, such a reactive mindset. It's a how you have this term like people crashing out, like these days, like people just this emotional, like something happens and they just snap on like the smallest thing. Yeah, this whole reactive like mindset because people are just ready to pop, people are just ready to spill over. People are so stressed out, people can't deal with all of the anxiety, like in life, and they're just like a bubble just waiting to pop, which is such a sad state of reality because these are supposed to be grown as adults, capable of dealing with pressure, capable of dealing with like real life things. But sadly, most people aren't, because they're in a dangerous, toxic, like egoic mindset, and that's why they can't get anything done.
yeah, and taking responsibility for how you react. You can blame other people. Someone made you mad, or some situation made you mad, so it's the situation's fault, or it's the other person's fault. Oh, it's your fault for
Yep.
making me mad. Well, you know, um, you're the one who chooses how you respond, so you can choose, to be aware of your emotional state and not be in a reactive state, how you're going to let that out, and instead choose how to react rather than. That's where you get in. You're a slave to your emotions because your emotions are calling the shots. An emotional, something happens, it's a stimulus. Internally, you have an emotional state, and then you're reacting as your response rather than putting a gap between that stimulus and response and trying to think about it and choose how you want to respond. You're not choosing. So when you're not choosing and you're being led by your emotions, that's like, you're a slave to your emotions because you're
Yeah.
not making that choice of how do you want to react. Is that the best way to react? And people get stressed out and whatever cortisol and whatever all these emotions, and if you're getting mad all the time over things and you can just choose to handle it in a different way, that'd be better for your own internal health and well-being. And yeah, so stop blaming other people for how you react. The situation might have made you angry, but you're the one who got angry, and you're the one who's reacting the way that you're reacting, or whatever emotional way that you're reacting, and that's on you. It's not on anything else. Yeah, there can be justified or a just reaction, as opposed to justification to create it right. Um, but it is right to react in some ways, but it
Yep.
might be excessive the just automatic reactions from a stimulus to a response. Put in that gap and think about the best way you want to react to things. So what we were just talking about before that, the mind control, that we're enslaved in the mind and then the body, and we're fools and we're divided. You can explain these things to people, how we live in immorality, the way society is structured, the immorality from authority, the problem with authority, and then people will be like, oh, okay, yeah, okay. And then it's like, but what can I do? And that's that learned helplessness, that I'm powerless to do anything about it. I can't impact the lives of others to ripple out as change in the collective or the aggregate. Things are like this now, and they've always been like this before, and that's how they're going to stay like this forever. Why bother trying? It can't be changed. So even if I do try, it's such a monumental effort. My God, it's so much work and time and dedication and energy. I just don't have the time. It's too much work. I don't want to get involved in that. It's too much of an effort, and I won't have any effect. It's not going to be worth it, so I'm not even going to try. And yeah, that's where a lot of people
The
are
slave
at.
mindset, yeah,
Yeah.
because we've all heard it, man. And I've always equated to, like imagine going back like in time, and you're actually on a slave farm, like physical shackles, and Chris and I and a lot of other people like, hey, we're about to, we are trying to, he'll escape, like we want our freedom. And all the other slaves like, no, man, it's like you don't like you don't know the outside world, coming up with all these scenarios to, like a fear. And like all these excuses, oh, like we can't leave, we have it somewhat good here, we don't know how to read. It's like they don't understand like freedom is the most important. Being free is that goal we should all be trying to help aspire to. And everyone's coming up with all of these reasons and excuses to stay on the plantation and keep the slavery going. All of these held excuses, so that's the same way I've always held equated it. Hell, maybe I'm a little bit extreme, but
No, that's good.
yeah.
And we can't escape where we are now. We can't what you're going to do is like, oh, I'm going to escape the government, plantation, the nation.
Yeah,
Where are you going to
no.
go? To another government, nation, plantation. That's where you're going to
Yeah,
go. You're going to escape from
right,
one.
yeah.
So it might be a little bit better over there than it is here. Okay, yeah. You're still going to be on a plantation, but the conditions are going to be better. Master's only going to beat you 4 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's an improvement. I'll grant you that. It's an improvement. So
And
you can
look,
escape to
they
some
ain't they
extent.
ain't allowing you in the Amazon jungle because they killing anybody, who tries to. And there's only a few of them left, like if they're still living there. There ain't no hell escape now.
Yeah.
Like there ain't no 100% going off grid. It's just
No,
not happening. That's not the
no.
reality. I think people are just lying to themselves and not being honest with themselves.
Yeah, so
But it sounds good on paper.
yeah, the only escape is actually getting out, first getting out of our own head cage, our own mental enslavement, and then we can, with other people united, we can get out of that condition of the world, of that cage that we're living in, and actually escape it by changing the way the world is. We can't escape to another area because it's all over the planet. So another thing that's a poisoned worldview and the value of the individual relates to the value of money, and how at the beginning of the series talked about what's, you can ask people what's the thing you value the most, and you won't hear them say truth or morality or principles. I'll be like never there. But what you'll probably end up getting, if you, maybe not the top 3, if you're going to the top 5, certainly the top 10, eventually you'll get someone to say money. And a lot of people, you don't even need to go that far. You just go to what's the top 1, and they'll say money. maybe they won't say it honestly, but in their character, in their state of being, that is what they actually value the most. They just don't want to appear shallow, but they value money the most. So, and that's what we have, is a lot of people who value money really high up there because they're going to take money to do immoral things. And that's what you have with the whole entire gamut of government and the individuals in that collective grouping known as government, because government isn't actually a thing in itself. It's just individuals grouped together that form that government apparatus, and you have them in all sectors. Many different career paths. It's not just police, military, and politicians. There's public sector workers in so many ways in the law, and could be health or something else. So all these people are taking money to do things, and the only reason they have the money is because it's being taken from other people. And the worst ones are the ones who do have that authority to control others, and where they have these rights that other people don't have. It's not that they're just doing a job. That people can choose the service. They have the job, or they have rights that other people don't, and everyone has to live with it until we choose not to live with it, until we unite to change that condition. So money is believed in as having value, but it doesn't have intrinsic value to provide you with actual things. Maybe you could, if your money is made of paper, you could burn it. So, it could be a fuel source. In many countries, you can't because it's made of plastic. I guess you could burn plastic. It'd be pretty toxic, but, And certainly the digital money, that's exemplifying how unreal it is. It's not providing you with actual real value. It's a medium to get those real things. So you can use money to go buy land. You can use money to buy a house. You can use money to buy food. These things will actually have some use, but money itself has no use. Its only use is as a medium with a belief in the value. And the only reason the monetary system hasn't imploded is because of this continued belief in people to continue to value it, even though it has been greatly devalued and we're on a house of cards. And the only thing that sustains us is people keeping to have faith in it. And that's what crashes happen when people lose faith in the dollar. That's one of the things historically, that's one of the statements that's made, losing faith in the dollar, because it's all about faith, a belief, a trust, a loyalty in it. And as long as that's maintained, the reality that underlies it doesn't matter, because that belief is you're living in the clouds, in fantasy land. You're not on the hard ground. And that's what happens, like when crashes come, is you get closer to that ground, but then they come with their economic bullshit and bailouts. So like in 2008, it was like, oh, the crash, oh, we're going to have a crash. Oh, bailout, pump that money to keep us in the clouds, keep us living in the clouds. And we're never actually crashing on the hard ground of reality, which would hurt a lot. It would hurt a lot. But then you're back to reality, and then you can build up from there on a more grounded, real basis, as opposed to keep floating higher and higher in the clouds, creating more of these illusions of wealth and inflating the money supply and the value. It's just the value of the money's gone down so much, but it doesn't matter because people just believe in whatever they want to believe, so it just doesn't change that much. So the money system we have is fraudulent because of that nature. So I've thought of many times of how to make money sound, but it'd be complicated as hell. So the main problem is they just keep creating more of it, and they want a stimulus. So when you stimulate the economy, the only way they can do it is to create more money. But when you create more money, you devalue it. So people's purchasing power is devalued. And then eventually, so that creates a boom, a growth, and then there's a bust or there's a recession. And then to try to get out of the recession, well, to try to collect more money, well, they put up interest rates. So when there's a growth, the interest rates are low, and then they create more money. But then they
Yeah.
gotta bring up the interest rates. So when the money is cheaper, people spend more and it grows. And then they contract that spending power potential because now the interest rates goes up. So now you got to pay more interest. So now you have less free money. So then there's less spending. So then the growth goes down and that leads to a recession. So then they got to pump the money up again. And it just keeps going and going and going. This is the madness, this fraudulent system that we
Yeah,
live in.
it's I hate to fucking laugh at it.
Yeah, it's just so
Oh man.
ridiculous. It's a big joke. That's
Yeah.
what it is. Just
Yeah. Like, yeah, when you start to analyze it for what it is, it is like, holy crap, this is like the fucking, like I almost had the greatest scheme, but the dumbest scheme that we've all, fallen for, because yeah. And then the whole fucking usury, behind it. And it's, oh gosh, like 11 people out there, like who went out and took, like student loans and then look at like what the interest rates were, then like, started, like breaking down when they found out how much they really owed, because that's how they always get people, like with the fucking immoral interest, and the stupid ass fucking usury. But like I've always said that booty is what people worship. And I don't mean like the booty as in like ass. I meant like if you look at where the word booty was, it was, like spoils, like like treasure from
pirates, yeah.
war. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like that in of itself has been ingrained, and then that has, that is money. But yeah, the whole pirate concept, of you take, hell, like if you want it, the hell you take it. And, physical possessions, the booty, hell, the spoils. That's really what is motivating people. And I think money would, if people were being honest, I mean, like totally honest, I think money would be number one on most people's list. I truly do think that, just because of the things people do, the things you hear people say. Um, they think all money is good money, hell, which is not. And the question I always ask people is, like here in the states, you have a $1 bill, then you have $100 bill. What is the difference between the two? There really isn't none. It's just people think that one is worth more than the other. So, hell, again, it comes down to our belief in it, our faith in it. And that's the problem. That's where they keep us, conditioned. Because at the end of the day, it's just two pieces of paper, you know, just two pieces of a paper, used with the same ink. It's not like one costs more to make. So it's just our belief, it's our mindset that is holding all of this fraudulent bullshit up. And when you look at how our monetary system is analyzed and how it's structured, it's the same system darn near, as Rome and a lot of other, societies that were, held before ours. So yeah, the whole booty worship, hell again, the spoils. I'm not talking about, physical ass, the whole pirate concept. That right there is conditioning.
Yeah, it was the same back then. Shaving coins so that they could have more money to spend, and that did them in. And well, we don't have that problem because I can just
Yeah.
create more, create more, create more, create more, and then
Okay,
there's
we have
that.
more machines now running 24/7. I
Yeah,
mean, those machines have got to be
printer go burr.
literally.
Brrr.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like that meme of like I'm tired, boss. I bet that's what those machines are like. They're probably on overdrive, stressing, just printing, 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 printing.
Yeah, and that's the usury. That's how they make their money, and it would already be better if it was just. It wouldn't be good, but it would be better. Less worse. If there was no, we're gonna create money. This institution's gonna create it, but loan it to the government at interest. So then you got to pay back, you got to collect taxes to pay back the debt so that you're on your balance with your sheet. But then you got to collect more than was created because the government created it all in the first place. And whatever was created at an interest. So there was interest owed. But if there was only a certain amount created and you got to pay that back, but then there's an interest to pay back, well, that money didn't exist yet. So if you create $10 million and you got to pay back the $10 million, but then you have a 1% interest, so that's $100,000. But where's that $100,000 coming from? Only 10 million exists, and you got to pay back that 10 million. So when you collect back that 10 million, then that 10 million is paid back. But where's that 1% coming from? Oh, well, we got to print more money. That's the only way it can happen.
It's just never ending fucking story.
And it just keeps going and going. And then that's the inflation. Devalues the money, enriches the few, because when COVID happened and when the bailouts happened, well, a bunch of people are getting money for doing bad shit. And when COVID was, there was a big financial crisis that was about to happen, and BlackRock had it planned. They already knew about it. And then I think they wrote that like $6 trillion COVID bailout package. And it's all the rich people who got that money. And so they're getting that money, and they get a lot of it, and then they can buy real things. And then because that all that money was created, it gets devalued for the rest of us who don't get shit. We just get left holding the bag is what happens progressively in this economic system, this fraudulent system that we're in. We're just bag holders, or the people who benefit are the ones who get the benefits from the government, the contracts and whatever, and the bailouts. And the rest of us just get screwed.
I remember it was a lot of people who went and got loans and shit, and they got, they got the loans, but they were spending that money on other shit. And now a lot of them are sitting in prison, because there's always, attachments. There's always attachments when the government gives you something for free. It ain't never free. Like there's always a clause, how you didn't read. Like there's always a spider web that is attached to it. So yeah, the ones who at the top got all that money, and then whatever little, her money that was handing out at smaller levels, because people don't know how to manage and they are so corrupt, they started spending it in other fraudulent means. Then of course, years later, a lot of them are still being caught today, sadly. But the ones at the top will never ever, freaking get caught.
Yeah,
but the peasants will. Yep. It's all a scheme, though.
Oh yeah, big scheme. Oh, you did wrong. You did bad business practices. Oh well, that's okay. Here's some money, and then you can just do it again in 10 years. Yay! So true value is based on what is true. So you can take something and you say, what's the true representation of this word? Well, when you take value and the true value, it's based on what's true. Not based on what is believed or perceived value of monetary equivalence. That's not what true value is. That's just the value of a quantity, a perceived value of something being worth something relative to this thing called money, which is being devalued constantly. And so people think, what's the value of this? What's the value of that? Well, think of it in terms of, people should think of it in terms of how valuable is it in creating a moral world, or creating more morality, or bringing, elevating our potential as humans, as opposed to just, how valuable is it? How much I can sell and get for it to buy something else. So this true value is true principles to live by, like moral truth. Oh yeah, but the principles people have, many people don't have these true principles, like the moral truth. Or if they do have some principles, they sell them out, as happened with the COVID madness. People claimed they had principles, but then abandoned their principles out of fear. And often they sell them out of fear, but oftentimes it's not just out of fear, it's they sell them out for dollars, literally for dollars, that, oh, well, I'll live by this way, but if you offer me enough money, well, then my principles that I claim to live by, well, I'll sacrifice them in order to get those dollars, because they come first in my value system. That money comes first. And we could talk about the real money is the mon I, the one I, the I, the one I, the individual is ultimately the one I is us, the individuals, and our natural rights. The true individual, the true not divided and not dual within ourselves and our consciousness, integrity, united, non-contradiction, consistent, congruent, united in unison. Yeah, that's the real money that people don't have, because that takes work. Work on yourself. So we can change our state of being, our nature that is created from our thoughts and emotions, the nature that our state of being that we are formed into, that we are nurtured into, makes our state of being, and that state of being is the nature of who we are at that time. Not that it's always that way. And then we can do things differently with our actions. And then we can have better results manifest in the world. And we talked about, I think we went through this one already. I had it at the end here, but we talked about it last time. The poison of the brain rot. Yeah, that was last time. The TikTok and the shorts and all that warping the mind.
Oh yeah, and it's only getting worse.
Yeah. And we also mentioned copying animal behavior. That poisoned worldview, that because you see another animal in nature behave a certain way, and it's like, well, they're doing it, then I can do it too because they're doing it. It's like it's in nature and I'm part of nature, and well, I'm an animal too and they're animals, so I can just do it because they're doing it. If they're doing it, then it's legitimate for me to do it. It's just a really devolved way of thinking, of lowering yourself to the position. Yes, we are animals, but we're not just an animal like the other animals. We are a human animal, just like a cat animal is not a dog animal. They are different. But all of them are in a lower class compared to us due to our higher level of potential to do good and also to do evil. So when they're in the middle and we have this great potential to do good, but we also have the great potential to do evil. If we look at it in an elevated position, if the other animals are here and our potential is we can be up here, but our potential is we can also be lower than them. And instead of people saying, yeah, let's be better than what the other animals are doing, they're like, oh, let's just be the same in this quality here. Let's just be the same as the other animals. And I'm not even talking about being worse, but just like, oh, how can I do things better? Oh, look, they do it this way. Well, should we do it that way? People aren't even asking, is that the best way to do it? No, well, they do it. Let's just do it like them. It's survival of the fittest. The might makes right. Whoever's the strongest, the lion eats the gazelle. Oh, let's do it. That's natural. That's the natural order. So let's just do it the same way. We don't have to think about better ways of doing it, different ways of eating. Why bother with that?
Right, yeah.
You're confusing things. Just copy what they're doing. Look, that's the way nature works. That means we have to do it that way. That's our nature. That clearly that's what's happening in nature. So we have to do it. We have to copy nature. Don't you want to be natural? Hey, you're talking about natural law. Well, that's the natural order. You got to be natural, and that's nature. So you got to do it too.
Yeah, it's I almost say like a very degrading way to look at yourself. Yeah, and I get that, a lot from When you try to talk to people about, not eating meat, and then they say, but well, other animals eat meat,
I
and then
thought
it's
the
like,
other
well,
animals,
yeah,
this
it's
is what
like,
it sounds
well,
like, Christ.
those same animals aren't capable of the level of good and bad and doing things and destruction as we are. So it's like that's not even a valid argument. But when they say that, it just lets me know that they put themselves
Yeah,
on that same
is
level
that
as the
devaluing?
animal.
That's what we're
Yes.
talking about, the value of the
Yep.
individual. They just automatically devalue themselves to a lower level of consciousness rather than try to operate and strive for higher levels of consciousness,
Yep.
that higher potential. No, you're going to limit your potential, limit your value, put yourself down to that level when you're capable of so much more because you have higher levels of reasoning, higher order
Yep.
thinking, and higher order applicability of your will and the choices and what you can create, higher creative potential, and then you're just limiting yourself like that.
Thank you. Yeah. No imagination. Dead, a dead imagination. Can't see themselves outside of the same scope as an animal.
Yeah. So it's always
Oh man.
that's one of the worst like
Yeah.
poison worldviews and um, devaluations of an individual is of yourself and the rest of humanity,
Yeah.
that you view humanity as like, well, the other animals do that, so we should just do the same. Should you? Is that really what should be done? Because you're not actually thinking. If you're just saying, well, it's fine for them, then it's fine for us. Well, why is it fine? What if there's another way? Have you thought of other ways? How hard is
Right.
it? Is it hard? Is it too hard for you to do it another way? Well, maybe you should try to do it another way anyways. If it's hard, doesn't mean it's not something that you can do or something that you should do. It's just harder.
Even if you just take 2 seconds to think about it, how animals act, like animals don't give a shit about clutter. Like they don't like they don't have the conceptualization to recognize certain things. When like most animals, when they see themselves in a mirror, they think it's another, animal. Yeah, like there are some like like how monkeys and apes, who can recognize, okay, that's me. But majority of the animals don't even have the cognition to even recognize that. So how can you even lower and equate yourself to that same like animal? Like it's such a retarded way
I was pick and
of
choose, cherry
seeing.
picking. It's cherry pick.
Yeah,
No, they can't do a million things that we can do, but hey, we're going to cherry pick this thing because I want to do that. So I'm going to cherry pick and say, by analogy and comparison, that, well, since they do it, then it's a justification for me to do it.
right.
But you're just cherry picking the things. Well, why don't you just go? Oh, why don't you just go live? You don't need a house. You don't need technology. You don't
Yeah,
need anything. Just go
yeah,
live in the forest, wherever you are.
yeah,
There you go. Oh, well,
yeah.
you don't want to cherry pick that way. You don't want to imitate that way of living. Okay, I see. So you're
Just go
choosing
take
to
it down
live
the
in better
gazelle and
ways
eat it
in some
raw.
ways, but
Yep.
in other ways you don't want to live in a better way. So you're willing to do the work and the convenience because it serves you and it's convenient for you. But when you need to do the work in another way that can also benefit you, but it's just work and it's not as comfortable. It's inconvenient, and then you just don't want to do it. You just want to cherry pick
Yep.
the thing that you want to imitate. Yeah.
Because we don't have large claws. Like we're very slow when it comes to running. We don't run on four, feet. We don't have like fur and like we don't have much survival, like physical survival skills outside of what our brains and the way we think. That's what makes us who we are. So that right there is what separates us. So when like people just put us on the same like animal plane, it's like just sit down, just think about it fucking realistically. It wouldn't take you 2 seconds to see like there's no comparison. We are capable of doing so much more, way so much more. And we also
Yeah.
capable of doing so much more destruction, which we sadly we are still doing.
Yeah. That's the uh, Uncle Ben, Peter Parker, Spider-Man quote there. With great power comes great responsibility. And it's so true.
And that's why
Agree.
people want to stay ignorant because because deep down subconsciously they realize the responsibility that comes when you apply knowledge, and they don't want to bear that torch because they're fucking cowards.
Yeah, that's the crux of it. Responsibility is what it takes. And when you assume that responsibility, then you're going to develop the courage and more care because you took on that responsibility. And because when you take on that responsibility, it means you have to do something. It's an ability to respond. So if you're not responding, you're not doing anything. So it involves action. So you're going to have the courage to take the action in some way. You're going to have the care to apply your will to take that action. And obviously, it can take courage to get to the responsibility. It can take care to get to the responsibility. And all that needs to be worked on, that shadow work, to develop that responsibility. And that is very much needed because that's what people run away from. That's that Atlas holding up the world, bearing the weight, bearing that responsibility, and people don't want it. They just want to be irresponsible like children, not have to bear that weight, not have to do the work, not have to sacrifice, put in the time and the energy on learning things or working on themselves eventually through that learning of things to realize that they have to work on themselves and then eventually doing the great work, launching themselves, lighting a fire under their ass and igniting in that spaceship to propel humanity to greater heights and greater potential to get us, let's get into become a type 1 and type 2 civilization. The possibilities are endless. There's so much greatness that we could do, but we're choosing to be where we are instead. And it's
We're
so
choosing
sad.
to go backwards. Yeah, we're going downwards. Like we're not even at nil. We're not even at zero. We're going under.
Yeah.
We're degrading so rapidly.
Yeah, it's hard to see because we got a lot of benefits. We got a lot of good things going, but then, yeah, there's still all that crap shit going on. And, yeah, it's going down. It's like, as I've said before, history is like up and down, up and down. We got into a pretty good position and we can still keep going up, but we're on we're on the way going down from where we're at now. Sad. All the potential being wasted and people just stuck in cul-de-sacs and poisoned worldviews and thoughts that inhibits them, keeps them grounded, not in a good way, grounded to reality, but grounded from that rocket ship. We're not blasting off into our higher potential. We're just grounded and stuck. We're stuck. That's it. We're a stuck species because we're not getting it. Never going to get it.
Stuck by choice. Stuck by choices.
Yeah, all this
The brain
is
rot is
ultimately
real.
choice. That's the power we have, the great power we have as individuals. More empowerment, the value of the individual. That we're not powerless. We have choices. And it's based on the choices we want to make. Choice to get involved, the choice to work on yourself, the choice to learn, or the choice to just keep living for yourself, you and yours. Whatever comforts and conveniences you can eke out of your existence and secure for yours as well, your family. And well, then if you're going to focus on that, then not going to focus on the higher potentials that we can actualize to elevate ourselves as individuals and elevate ourselves as an aggregate, a collective of society around the planet, and bring ourselves to better vistas. Yeah. Fortunately, what can you do? Except try to influence people. Try to get them to get it. Pay attention.
Yeah.
And
It is what it is, sadly. We're all connected,
yeah,
you know.
unfortunately. Your freedom is bound to the ignorance of others. That's a good quote from Passio there to end it.
Yeah.
Your freedom, everyone out there, your freedom is bound to the ignorance of others. And that is why ignorance is evil, not ignorance of what happened in the basketball game last night or whatever's going on. I don't know, basketball's over or something. I don't care. Whatever happened there, that's not the ignorance we're talking. We're talking about ignorance of objective morality. That's what evil is, because when you're ignorant of objective morality, you're on the checkerboard floor and you're walking on the good tiles and you're walking on the evil tiles. That means you're doing good, but you're also doing evil. And that's because you're ignorant of objective morality. You can't elevate yourself off the checkerboard floor on the ladder to ascension because you don't know how. That requires that knowledge. So yeah, your freedom, you want to be free? Well, that's the ignorance of others is binding you away from that freedom. And that's the importance of doing the great work, because only by doing the great work does more content get created, quality content, to potentially influence others, because then they could come across it and be influenced by it, and now put them on the path of truth, on the knowledge quest, etc., to eventually engage in it themselves. And more people do that. And if there was only one person creating content on the whole planet related to anything about freedom, then none of us would be here, because there would have been only one person. And fat chance that other people would have learned about it. So it's only because other people learned from someone they heard, and then they learned, and they wrote books and stuff, and throughout the ages and time and history, and it's all, we're standing on the shoulders of others before us. So be someone to carry that weight and have other people standing on your shoulders to propel them further as well. So we'll end it there.
True.
If you have anything else to say.
I mean, hell, you said it well. Standing on the shoulders of giants. I mean, just think, Passio created, what on earth is happening, and, brought a natural law, I'm not saying it wasn't already there, but, like he, brought it to a lot of people's ears. And just look at all the individuals who learned from that, all of the conferences. And, he learned it from the teachers who came before them. And like, that's what people, have to recognize. We're not here, because of one person. We're here from the many great teachers who have understood this knowledge and, did this great work, before us. And that's what we are trying to inspire others, how to do. It ain't just about one person. It's about the individual coming to understand objective morality. Then once he, does, what does he do with that knowledge? How does he just hold on to it, or does he put that knowledge back out into the world for others to learn? And that's the most important thing right there. So yeah, thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, thanks for coming by. I appreciate it a lot. Always better than, the more people come, the more people can have their inputs and share their knowledge and how they see things, and makes for better content than just one person talking from their notes and doing stuff. Yeah, there's a different flow, better dynamic. So always appreciate you coming by. Anyone else that wants to come by, hop on board the Great Work train, the Great Work spaceship, get launched, launch yourself. Do the work. Trying to find something clever to say, but it's escaping me. So, thanks everyone for coming by. Thanks, Brendan. Hope you gained some value from this content, and I guess we'll see you next Wednesday. Getting into some dynamics of fear for doing the great work. So catch you later. Have a good evening, or good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Take care. Peace.